Traditional notions of space and God's relationship to it are often shrouded in paradox. How can an omnipresent God transcend space while sustaining all existence? Spiritual Christianity offers a profound insight. God's being is non-spatial, and space is a mental construct grounded in the finite nature of human and angelic minds. The Lord God is omnipresent, but his being is not of a spatial kind. Unlike natural bodies, he does not fill space. Spiritual Christianity concludes that while space in the spiritual world has an internal reality grounded in the angelic state, it lacks the external reality that natural ways of thinking suggest it has. The notion that space has an external reality independent of mental causes, as suggested by natural reasoning, poses a paradox. If space were independently real, the Lord's omnipresence would necessitate his presence within that space. However, we understand that the Lord transcends time and space. Therefore, for him to sustain all existence without being bound by spatial limitations, space cannot possess an independent external reality. If it did, the Lord's infinite being would need to assume finite spatial qualities to interact with and sustain creation, which is impossible. The Lord cannot be both infinite and finite, and thus space must be a mental construct, not an objective reality. In the spiritual world, space lacks an objective reality independent of the mental states it reflects. Despite this, it is perceived with the same sense of externality as in the natural world. The key difference lies in perception. Spiritual beings recognize this externality as an appearance, whereas natural minds mistake sensory appearances for reality itself. The appearance of space in the spiritual world arises from the imperfect reception of the Lord's divine life by finite minds. This imperfect reception generates spatial distances that symbolically represent the limitations and imperfections of the mind. In essence, space in the spiritual realm is a subjective experience, a reflection of one's mental state, rather than an independently existing reality. A finite being such as an angel cannot be directly united with the Lord in his essential nature. The angel's mind can only receive the divine life imperfectly, giving rise to a distinct consciousness separate from the Creator. This limited conjunction manifests as a sensory representation, where angels perceive an intervening space between themselves and the Lord. The Lord appears as a sun at a spatial distance from angels, similar to how the natural sun appears distant from humans. This perceived distance, representing the state of reception of the Lord's life into the angel's mind, gives birth to the sensuous appearance of spatial distance. The Lord does not perceive actual space or the appearance of space. Both the natural and spiritual perceptions of space are representative images or effects of the finite state of reception in human and angelic minds. These differences in the interpretation of space and its objects between the two sensuous worlds in which angels and humans exist highlight the distinction between the spiritual and natural modes of thought. In conclusion, the non-spatial nature of God's being resolves the paradox of omnipresence and spatial limitations. By recognizing space as having a subjective basis, born from the imperfect reception of divine life by finite minds, we gain a deeper understanding of the spiritual realm. The Lord's essence remains transcendent, unbound by spatial constraints, while his presence is manifested in the mental states and perceptions of his creatures. This profound perspective illuminates the distinction between the spiritual and natural modes of thought that characterize angelic and human consciousness.